I am here with Laya DeLeon Hayes. She is the star of the South by Selection film, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. It's inspired by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, as you all know, absolutely iconic. And it's a real modern societal commentary on the grit and the realities of gang violence, Black culture. It has a 100% rating so far on Rotten Tomatoes. So without further ado, Miss Laya, she is a BAFTA winner. She is the daughter of Queen Latifah's character in The Equalizer. Laya, welcome to Cancel Me, Baby.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me at Cancel Me, Baby.
Let's do it, lady. I am excited. This movie it's intense. It's intense, but we're gonna start and hop into it and start off with more of a fun question before we get into it, okay? Which is, like I said, you are not only, Frankenstein, a Frankenstein-esque character is huge. It's been reiterated in pop culture so many times, right? So I want to ask you how it felt and how it feels, not only being a female Frankenstein, but a Black female Frankenstein, right? And really, like, you get up in all the brains and all the gore. So I'm sure that did have to be fun for you.
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I mean, when, like you said, we've never really gotten to see this like young Black and innovative female Frankenstein before. So just to even again get this audition was such an exciting thing to take on. I was extremely fascinated by her from the very beginning. I couldn't stop writing about her and thinking about what death is a disease even means and why does she want to cure it, So it means a lot to me that we're able to portray it in this film, a character that, again, we have not been able to see very often. And I'm excited that we get to bring that to screen. So it's been a lovely experience getting to portray her.
I love how nerdy she is. I'm a science nerd. Okay. She's all up in the biology. Like I said, she is, and it's a gore. Like, I'm watching it and obviously it's a movie. So it's, but yeah, you're watching it and you're like, she is not afraid. Like, she is all up in there, the mad scientist. It's also giving Harry Potter with the glasses. Like, it is a whole thing. So
I haven't heard the Harry Potter.
It has the broken glasses with the tape. I'm like, it's not only Frankenstein, it is Harry Potter.
I'm loving this mix. I mean, to film the gory scenes was a bit nerve-wracking for me because I get very scared easily, especially with all the blood and all the nasty stringy stuff. But Mani, our writer-director, was so excited about it that I couldn't help but just
yeah. Well, with that being said, so my viewers know, Laya, that at Cancel Me, Baby, I am not about, the virtue signally, the commentary and things that we are seeing and hearing all the time. This is not that. This is a chilling, like I said, really striking social commentary piece that just makes you think and strikes to your core. It almost like a Get Out. It reminded me of that, like something that just really sinks in and is entertaining, and it's horror, but it makes you think. So with that being said, I looked at your socials and I know how proud you are of this movie. So with all of that being said, what does it really mean to you? And what does it bring to the conversation? A nuance, and what does it bring in a different kind of way?
Yeah, goodness, it means everything. I think the first time that I even read this script, I was taken aback at how many themes were explored in it, especially dealing with a classic tale like Frankenstein, which is something that a lot of people understand and they fully know and they fully understand what Frankenstein is about. But what our movie is able to do is really humanize it and bring it down to a level where the Black community is able to really relate to it. You're able to see characters that maybe once you would see in a film like this, and it would be used as a stereotype or as comic relief, but you actually get to see the human side of these characters. Yes, you have like Kango, who's a drug dealer, but at the end of the day, this is also his only way of income. He's a leader in the community, and he's also supporting his grandmother at the same time. With Vicaria, you would kind of expect this character to go from like this quote unquote white school and then come back to her primarily Black community, and it'd be a thing that she has to code switch to be able to like separate these two worlds. But for her, it's not that. Like, she is fully confident in herself and what her capabilities are, and nobody's opinion is ever going to get in the way of that. It's just really great to be a part of this conversation, one, but two, again, you don't get movies like this that are genre film. They're going to give you like jump scares and you're going to see some blood and guts. But at the end of the day, the horror aspect of our movie is much scarier. And it's because of the truth and honesty that comes with societal pressures of living in these communities, or not even just living in these communities. There's a lot of beauty of living in these communities, but also just being Black in America, what comes with that.
So you bring up a really good point of the juxtaposition of your character's life. It's funny because I have a question in here about how that pertains to your real life. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But before that, you talk about stereotypical roles. Maybe it's stereotypical Black characters that we see, right? And earlier when I said the angry Black girl, you're like, oh my God, right? So yeah, she's like, so let's dissect this for a minute, Laya, because this has become like a phrase or a thing, right? Like the angry Black girl, the angry Black woman, the angry Black man. So I wanted your take on this. Have you seen New People with Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill on Netflix? It's a newish movie.
Yes, I did watch it. Yes.
Okay. So it's a modern take on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, where Jonah Hill, the white Jew in LA, has a Black girlfriend, and her dad is Eddie Murphy, who's this like uptight, agro, protective dad, right? So there's a scene in the movie where the girlfriend says to Jonah Hill, are you calling my dad the angry Black man? And Jonah Hill's like, no, but what if it's, he's angry, but he happens to be Black, right? And I think that this is something that goes on in white people's heads as much as they don't want to say, like, they're like, wait, what? So your immediate take on that, and, how to navigate, and your thoughts on, the angry Black person, right?
Well, I mean, that phrase, depending on the way that it's said and who it's coming from, primarily white people, they've put the racist connotation on it. That's what it is. So it's a way of almost of categorizing us, and again, not seeing a full human being, and almost and dehumanizing us in a lot of ways, where now it feels like a responsibility to code switch, or we can't show that we're angry or pissed off in any situation because we don't want to be categorized as such. And it's one of those things when you're, again, Black in America, where they'll categorize you in a second, and they won't think twice about it. So you're very careful about the moves that you have to make. And the movies and films that are being made that portray this stereotype focus primarily on stereotype. They don't focus on the passion that these people have, or the actual vulnerabilities that these people have, or also their soft sides to these people. Anger is just a human emotion that every human being feels, but all of a sudden it feels when Black people, or Black women specifically, show their anger, that all of a sudden we're categorized and put into a box because of it. But I think the only people, and the only way that it's become racist, is because white people have put that connotation on it. So now that when it's used, it feels like a racist phrase. But if we separate racism from it completely, Black women and Black men have every right to be angry. And we should be, and that's okay. But it also doesn't steer away from the fact that there's vulnerabilities with all of us. We're completely human as well. And again, I think that's the point of the title too.
I was just going to say how it really kind of like flips it on its head and like takes it on in a way, right? And gives it a whole other sort of like nuance.
Exactly. It's like when you see the title, what do you get categorized as a Black woman if you're showing any type of passion or any type of frustration? You're put into this one box and that's it. Again, you're just two-dimensional, and they don't care to look past any of that, because to them it's just that's what it is. You're in that box now. And it's the same with Black men. It's this like perceived racist instinct that they have you view a monster. So you see that title and that's what the title is, but then when you watch the movie, you get to see these individuals as human beings. And that's why everyone should see it. It'll be able to change your perspective on not just our communities or who we are, whatever, in that way, but also the way that we use these phrases or these words to categorize Black people as one thing, as opposed to full human beings.
Like hashtag Black men cry too. And actually men cry too. You know what? Because
yeah, and even with the hashtag, like it gets so fishy with like online and all of that.
Totally. It like I'm joking, but right, like all these things reduce it to like
something small.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. At the end of the day, and that's again what's so great about the movies, you get to see this in a way that's not portrayed before, and it's told truthfully and authentically from the eyes of Black people. And that accurate representation goes much further than anything else.
Well, first of all, you're so beautifully you're 18?
Yes.
Okay. We can just pack them and go home. It's fine. But I so appreciate your response, because my show Cancel Me Baby, I know you're like a lot of people when they hop on, they're like, what's about to happen here? But my show is all about, we're in a timeline, you're hitting this on the head. It's like, we're all boxed in. We're all judged based on what we look like, what we do. We're told what to say. We're told how to be. And my show is like, you know what? F it. Like it breaks out of every box. And I want to empower people to say what they think, to be who they are, regardless of what people think. And that's the idea. It's like, cancel me, bring it on. Like bring your art into the world, bring your point of view into the world. And so thank you for what you just said, for doing that very thing.
Well, it's one of those things too, where like when you're able to actually have a conversation about it, as opposed to tiptoeing around the root of the issue, then nothing's going to happen. So it's great that we can have places and platforms like this to be able to talk about certain issues.
Absolutely. So I teased the juxtaposition, right, of your character, now of your real life. Now, like I said, you recently won a BAFTA. So I see you at this like swanky award show with the gown, and I myself, I've sat front row at the Emmys, I've been to the Oscars, like I have like a foot in both worlds, right? And then we see you in this movie that, like I said, and like you're saying, it's that the reality and the grit of, gang violence, urban culture, Black on Black crime. So having almost like, I know it's acting, but having a foot in both worlds kind of at the same time in that way, like what are your overall takeaways, your observations, and what is that experience like?
Yeah, well, I think the main goal as an actor for me is just to be challenged. Like I want to always push myself to the limit and never settle in terms of what my capabilities are. And I've been very grateful and very lucky in my own career to play characters and be a part of projects where we really don't get to see Black people in these types of genres. If it was a few decades ago. So even with God of War, which is what I won the BAFTA for, this is the first time you get to see a Black person in Norse mythology. And that had this like uproar on social media, and people were like, this isn't historically accurate. Like this would never happen in Norse mythology, but also at the same time, it's mythology for a reason. And like, there's blue people in God of War and like talking heads in God of War. Again, it just like, it all leads to that feeling of, dang, like even if you're a part of a fantasy or genre film, that Black people still aren't even considered as human, even when you're dealing with something like dragons and aliens, you know what I'm saying? So it's always a goal for me to be a part and be in spaces where maybe you don't get to see us very often. God of War was that for me, and Angry Black Girl is that for me. And at the end of the day, it's about character and it's about story. And it's been very impactful to play both of those characters. And I hope that the people who even played God of War will be able to see this movie or see, oh, hey, that's the girl who played Angrboda, and they'll come to the theater to see this one. And hopefully they'll gain new perspective as well.
Well, I have to start wrapping, Laya, but lastly, I want to ask you, in this movie, a theme that comes up is Black history and how it's taught in schools. And without getting into the weeds of that, because we are wrapping, unfortunately, talk to me about your experience as a young Black woman and your friends and your peers, and how it may differ from the experience of generations before you, right? Like, obviously, there are still microaggressions. Racism is still real. But you'll often hear, I feel like, people in your generation say, it's more integrated. It's different now. It's different than my parents, grandparents. Talk to me a little bit about that and your experience, because you're from North Carolina. Is that right?
I am. I'm from North Carolina and I was raised in Texas, and I went to Texas. Yeah.
So shed some light on that for me, given your real life experience.
Oh, goodness. There's so much. If you compare it to 40 years ago and now, there's so many different things to compare. Like you said, racism is still alive. Like, she's still here. And we can see that in the recent protests, and even at the state of the United States. Like, you can fully understand and see that racism is still alive. I think the difference is now we're able to have platforms where we can call it out. And also there's this thing, the internet, where we're able to find the truth and get down again to the root and truthful issues, or the root of truthful issues. So my experience in the education system, it relates a lot to actually the scene with Donald and Vicaria in the movie. We have this great scene where Donald calls out the teacher and tells her to basically just teach what you got to do, and let my daughter have her creative endeavors. If that's what she feels like doing, let her do it. But it's this beautiful moment where you get to see, like, all right, Vicaria's dad is extremely supportive of any decision that she's making right now. And I felt the same way when I was going through the education system. There were times where they would look at me, again, being the only Black child in the class, and there would be things that they would call me out for, or I would get sent to the office for. And my dad would be right there to make sure that, again, you're being looked at as a human and as another child or a fellow student, and not just as Black girl or this angry Black girl or whatever, again, category that they want to put you in. The conversation has changed. I think that's the main difference. Again, whether or not you believe you're racist or you're not racist, the thing within our communities and with my parents especially is we're able to have conversations about it. And even when I was growing up, my dad trusts my word. Even it didn't depend if I was 6, 7, or 8. He trusted my word versus what any white teacher had to say, because he knew what they were going to categorize me as or how they were going to view me. So I think it's just more awareness, because we've seen what segregation and even seeing like what the Black Panthers did for us just a few decades before. So it's seeing that and knowing what to expect. And now the conversation around it changes. And that's how it's been for me and my family. I hope that answers it. It's so much that like goes into the education system.
I know, girl, I had a whole thing too about how I appreciate how this film sheds light on Black on Black, urban crime, because I feel like that's something that gets brushed under the rug and overlooked often. So,
and that's a whole other thing too.
Yep.
And that has to do with, again, how did we get to that point, and what has society done and other factors done outside of just Black people that have put us in that predicament. So again, that's like
I know 10-minute junkets will get you. I know. And how the media always constantly overlooks that. Yeah. But you know what? Hopefully you and I will have a part 2 down the line. I have to let you go. You were so eloquent. Thank you for sharing your experience. Your performance in this is stellar, and I really wish you all the best. And thanks for taking some time and being so thoughtful and open with me today here on Cancel Me Baby.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely speaking with you.
You as well.